Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday. Greetings and salutations. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski with you on this Wednesday. I don't know that any of that went out over the air. We good?
I believe all of that went out over the air.
Okay, that's a relief. I could just be deaf, honest to goodness. I didn't get it. I need more snare. I need more snare in my headphones. Put some treble in it.
Can you not hear yourself?
No, I got me now. I did not have myself at first, which was a very disconcerting thing to have had happen. But anyway.
Well, something might have been wrong, and I will not say that nothing was wrong. I will tell you I did nothing.
I believe
and then you could hear yourself. So
we're starting out hot on a Wednesday edition of
great start to the day.
580 Sports Talk coming at you for the next 2 hours here today on this Wednesday on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com, and streaming live on our video YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Why 2 hours? You may have caught that and said, wait a minute. Don't you guys usually work 3 hours? Why are you clocking out early? Well, K-State women's basketball is in action tonight. They are at Cincinnati, 5:30 tip-off scheduled time. So pregame coverage on the K-State Sports Network starts right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 at 5 o'clock sharp. So that means we are knocking off an hour early today. We had 2 hours with you, and we look forward to spending them with you however you are tuning into the show today. Thanks for being on with us on 580 Sports Talk. And a hearty, happy Pitchers and Catchers Day to those who observe, including all of you out there who are Royals fans. The boys in blue are back in town. The town in question being Surprise, Arizona. I don't know if they have a Dino's Bar and Grill in Surprise, Arizona. I've been, not to Dino's Bar and Grill, but I've been to Surprise, Arizona, but didn't do a lot of, I was not of age to do a lot of bar crawling when I went down there to visit. So the Royals began spring training today. It's kind of the unofficial start of baseball season for many teams. Some teams have already reported, and really this is a soft report day as it is. There are a lot of players that have been there for a week or so. There are position players who are already in camp as well. So it's something of a misnomer, but this is the official, if you're not here, you're late day for pitchers and catchers for several teams, including the boys in blue. They are back just in time, as Trevor posts on our YouTube live chat, to cure any Chiefs-related depression that you may be experiencing following Sunday's Super Bowl 59 loss. And we will get to some baseball in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll crack the seal on some Royals talk. I'm excited.
Man, can you imagine thinking 1 year ago today, even 2 years ago, God, I've been dying for the Royals to return to make me feel better.
Yeah, that's not normal. That's not what we've been experiencing recently.
It's a sickness, but that's okay. The sick are well. Bring me your tired, you're sick, you're huddled masses.
So the gag is, and forever was, that the Royals couldn't even get us to training camp, right? That was Jake LeBon's big thing. Look, I don't care if the Royals win a championship or not. Just be competitive. Get us to training camp. There were many years we could not get that out of the Royals. Even that simple ask was too much for some of those late-stage Dayton Moore teams. Well, now we're appreciative that the Chiefs got us to pitchers and catchers. It's kind of turned on its ear a little bit.
This is the most spoiled conversation of all time. The Chiefs made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they sure did. We don't need to talk about what happened when they got there. It was an incredible year. It ended as late as a season can possibly end, and no further details.
Don't ask any more questions.
Yeah, as long as you have no further questions about the 3-time defending AFC champions, which sounds cooler than the team that lost the Super Bowl this past year, then we're good. And now we move to baseball, and it is Royals season. We'll talk a little bit about where things stand as the Royals start to come together in Surprise, Arizona. And since it's Pitchers and Catchers Day, we'll talk about some pitchers that we're most excited to see in 2025. That's coming up later on in the show today. Also on the show today, we're talking college basketball. K-State's never going to lose again, apparently. Jerome Tang and the bunch have decided, losing, no thanks. We don't believe in that. 6 in a row now for the hottest team in the Big 12 and indeed in the country with their win over Arizona last night. Made a little harder work of it due to some poor free throw shooting. It was a very funny night of shooting at Bramlage Coliseum. I don't know if there was a light bulb out in the gym or something, but if you missed the game, the two teams combined to go 3 for 41 from three-point range, which I believe is my stat line from three-point range in my second grade YMCA season back in the day. I think I was also 3 of 41 from behind the arc. So thankfully I got better as a third grader, but it was a rough shooting night. And I really would have thought that out shooting Arizona was going to be the way that K-State would have to win, because Arizona's big and long and athletic, and they can really do work on the glass and really hurt K-State on the glass. But no, Doug McDaniel was the best player on the court, and Moby Ikegaruke made one of the plays of the year down the stretch. And K-State has 6 straight wins, and it's like movie montage stuff with the Wildcats right now.
They mentioned, and I can't remember who was on the broadcast team, but I heard the start of the game's broadcast. I was leaving Skinny's last night in the Washburn coaches show.
Yes.
And they were talking about the K-State turnaround. It was right at the start of the game. And the play-by-play man, and I apologize, I forgot who it was, made a comment about how Jerome Tang has turned his team around. And I bet if you asked him, he wouldn't even know what he did to get them turned around. And I thought, man, that's so reductive and probably not really fair to Jerome Tang. And then I thought about it as Doug McDaniel made the crossover ankle breaker play of the year in the late second half.
Took Henry Visar's jock.
And I did wonder to myself, maybe I was too harsh. I wonder if Jerome Tang knows exactly what he did to get Doug McDaniel to play to the best of his abilities. But he did it. And K-State is a completely different team. Coleman Hawkins is a better player because of it. Brendan Housen's a better player because of it. Also, Moby becoming great, an all Big 12 player.
He made that play last night. I about fell off my couch. I could not believe. I mean, the steal's a great play, but then, when you have those guys, and with Moby, we've seen him jump, and we've seen him defend, and we've seen him rebound. He's good at those things. We haven't seen a lot of him, like, dribbling in the open court. So you kind of, with a player like that, you hold your breath a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I remember watching Doak try to dribble a couple times. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Like when Ernest Uday would lead the break as a freshman at KU, he'd get a steal on the perimeter, and they're like, well, there's nobody between me and the basket. I better go to the basket.
Ernest, no!
Exactly. The Flory's a little bit like that, too, right now. I've seen Flory do it a couple of times. Like, Flory, find a one immediately. Get him the ball. Moby, there was nobody else. It was just him, and he got to the basket, and he threw it down, and he drew the foul. I could not believe it. I about woke up my son.
There's a great clip from the original Slam Ball day. You remember Slam Ball? There's a great clip. You can find it on social media pretty easily. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody just bowling over a dude at half court, stealing the ball, racing up to one of the trampolines and making this huge free throw line dunk. It's one of my favorite basketball adjacent highlights ever. It's exactly what Moby looked like last night on that rip and run for the dunk. It was hard to imagine that it happened. I didn't even register it when I saw it because I got home and I put on the KU game and I got to K-State. Only had one TV last night, so I got to K-State when I could, when KU went to halftime. And it didn't even register with me at first. That was Moby who did that, who had the most athletic play to seal the game that I can remember. What?
Yeah, incredible. Off the charts. We'll talk about K-State's win over Arizona. We'll also get into KU's win over Colorado. Very routine, another game for KU that kind of had sim-to-end energy. If you were looking for something convincing to compel you to believe that KU was back to whatever extent you would like to see them return, whatever level you would like to see. They didn't get there last night by their own admission, but a win is a win, and they took care of their business against Colorado last night. We'll get to that game as well. Speaking of K-State, Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, as he always does on Wednesday, for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz of GoPowerCat.com will give his insight on the hottest team in America, the Kansas State Wildcats, as, again, they win their 6th in a row. And look, people who are smarter and follow more college basketball than me say they're back on the bubble. So they're back on the bubble. I didn't think they would get there. I did not think that was a possibility, but here we are. So we'll get Fitz's thoughts on that coming up again at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Plus, we'll do a round of What Is Wrong With You, some One Gotta Go. Again, short show today. We're only with you until 5 o'clock before we give way to K-State women's basketball tonight. If you are listening to the program today, you can interact with us in one of two ways. The text line is open, 785-272-9429. We always appreciate your text, 785-272-9429. You can also interact if you're watching the show on our YouTube channel. That is 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. There's a live chat feature that is also found on the web browser and on the mobile app. And if you're logged in, you can jump in the chat and interact with us and interact with your fellow listeners as well. Again, the name of the channel is 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe today if you have not already. I'm Dan Lucera. I don't know if I mentioned that. Brendan Wrzinski is with me today. Spencer Dupuy is out today. He'll be back tomorrow. We
locked him in an industrial-sized freezer. He has to find his own way out.
No, I have to get him out because you're not around the next 2 days. You are making the southern swing with the Wash for Ichabod.
That is true. I'll be in the state of Arkansas for the first time ever tomorrow. I've never been to Arkansas before.
The natural state?
The natural state.
Yeah.
That's right. A lot of natural resources, a lot of beauty in Northwest Arkansas. I think culturally also a lot different than the rest of Arkansas, like Fayetteville and Fort Smith and all that. So I'm excited for that. It's a 5.5-hour drive. So I'm not quite as excited about that part. But then we're going to Tahlequah after that. And if you know anything about Tahlequah, you know that I'm ready to leave already.
Yeah. the best. Tahlequah looks really pretty in your rearview mirror. And that's it.
It does have both a Whataburger and a Brahms, though.
Got that going for it.
Both of which I have already eaten at.
Got that going for it. Hometown of Cardinals all-star closer Ryan Helsley.
Northeastern State, alma mater, you know this, of Carrie Underwood.
Yes.
The house that Carrie built, the NSU Event Center. Additionally, though, I'll be on the show on Friday. I'll be from parts unknown. I can't tell you where, but it's not the worst, and it's also not Eastern. But yes, I will not be around tomorrow. So Spencer will have to fill in my stead.
Very good. Very good. Glad to know we'll have you Friday. And we'll look forward to that. But today it is myself and Brendan and all of you. And we thank you for being with us here on 580 Sports Talk. K-State beats 13th ranked Arizona last night, 73-70. And watching the game, like, you can see why Arizona's good. Like, you can see why they've been 11-1 in the league and why they're a top 15 team in the country. First of all, they're huge. Like, they can go big in a way that a lot of teams can't. And they're big at the guard spots. That's a big team with some strength and some veterans. And Caleb Love, for as much as we give him grief for being kind of a trick-or-treat scorer, a guy who can shoot you out of a game as easily as he can shoot you into one, has really rounded out his game. CJ Moore has written about this over at The Athletic. We'll talk to CJ on tomorrow's show and get his thoughts. But you can see why Arizona's good. And you can see why that's not an easy matchup for K-State, especially in the second half when David Gasson got in some foul trouble. They had to go to Nyenso for a bit, and then Moby got some minutes. And Moby plays big because he's long and athletic, but there's a strength disadvantage that Moby's at relative to Tobe Awaka and Henry Vasar. Like, those guys are big and strong, and they got some big offensive rebounds, second chance buckets in the second half, led the game with about 4 minutes to play, and then Doug McDaniel took back over. The advantage that K-State ended up having in this game was the best player on the court, and a lot of times that's good enough. And last night, the best player on the court, even in a game where the other team had an All-American caliber guard in Caleb Love, was Doug McDaniel. That was superstar stuff from Doug last night. 24 points. And it's not just how he scored. It was not just that he scored. It was how he scored. Mm-hmm. It was, all right, late in the shot clock, they're defending us. They're making it hard for us to get into the post because of their length, because of their size. I'm going to get a matchup, and I'm going to make something happen. I'm going to go get us a bucket. And if there's one thing that I did not think K-State had this season, it was a guy who could go get a shot and score at will. And Doug McDaniel became that down the stretch. He had back-to-back buckets, including the play we already mentioned where he got the switch on the screen and roll onto Vasar and put him on the deck on his way to the basket for a layup. That made it, I think, that gave him the lead for good, actually, because he had made a tough bank shot to tie it at 62 and then made the layup that made it 64-62. K-State never trailed again after that. McDaniel played himself to the point of exhaustion at the end of that game. You could tell, like, his body was starting to shut down on him at the end of that game. He left it all on the court. And watching that happen and watching K-State win that game at a raucous Bramlage Coliseum, really good crowd, all things considered, with the concern about the weather and obviously the slow start to the season. Really good crowd. The students have been great all year long. Jerome Tank's called them out and thanked them. It's amazing to draw the contrast with where we were at the end of non-conference. Heck, even after the Houston game, where one of the main talking points for us and for pretty much everybody else observing Kansas State men's basketball was, these guys don't look like they care. These guys don't look like it particularly bothers them to lose basketball games. These guys don't look like they're all the way in, all the way committed to the cause. Mm-hmm. You could not say that right now about this basketball team, and you certainly couldn't say that about Doug McDaniel. Whatever switch has flipped, whether Jerome Tang knew the right button to push or switch to flip, or whether that was Doug McDaniel having to take a hard look at the man in the mirror and decide what kind of player he wanted to be and then becoming that player on his own, it all has started with him. Him playing great means everybody else fits the way that we weren't sure if there was a fit with this roster, and they've won 6 in a row as a result. And yes, you can credit Coleman Hawkins playing well, and Hawson's had some big shooting games, and Max Jones has hit some big shots, and Gassan's been terrific all year, and that's all true. But none of this works if Doug McDaniel doesn't flip that switch.
Well, and there's the point to all those other guys, too. Maybe outside of Gassan, because he, just his game has been a little bit separate from everybody else. He has performed at a higher level than everybody else over the course of the season. But the fact that Coleman Hawkins is playing better, is that partially just he himself individually is doing more? Probably. But his game, as we talked about early in the year, this was probably back in December, or November. I wasn't here in December, but in November he is a really good player when he does not have to be the number one creator on your team. He's a guy who's going to rebound. He's going to take advantage of open looks. He's going to take advantage of favorable matchups. He can pass pretty well for a big man. That's what Coleman Hawkins is. He's in that role now. You know why? Because somebody else is creating at a high level and drawing attention, like Doug McDaniel. Brendan Housen is getting good open looks, and he's knocking them down after he went through that slump a little bit earlier this calendar year. You know what helps shooters? When guys are good creators and can get open shots, because point guards can get guys open shots. That's what Doug McDaniel has largely done, not every single time, but has largely done for Brendan Housen to get his game elevated. It creates more attention on one part of the floor that opens up driving lanes for a David Gassan, or opens up a shooting lane for either of the Joneses. Like, that is what having Doug McDaniel play at this level is actually able to do for you. And that has opened up everything else for this K-State team. And when you can get to the end of a game, and me mention that ankle breaker in the final few minutes of the second half, Dan, what did I specifically, but a lot of people who watched K-State, what did they complain about for a large portion of the first half of the year to this point? We don't have a guy to go to. We don't have someone who's going to go get us a bucket. I still don't know that Doug McDaniel is like a Keontae Johnson. Like, yeah, that dude's a bucket. He's going to score when you need him to score, most importantly. I don't know that that's his game, and that's fine. But he is still, A, willing to make those plays now, which he was not always able to do, and B, has enough gravitational pull, he can open up looks for Housen or for Hawkins, et cetera, et cetera. I think you've got to give a ton of credit to both entities that you mentioned. Doug McDaniel for figuring out, hey, I might not be long for high major college basketball and big NIL paychecks if I don't get my you-know-what together.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he absolutely has, and he has been great. He's been K-State's best player for a couple weeks now. And for Jerome Tang, who caught a lot of flack from us included, although from us not nearly as strongly as from some people who were saying, oh my God, we should have let him go to Arkansas. We should have fired him, whatever. I don't know what he did. I do not know. But when we talk about him as a motivator, and that's probably his best asset as a coach. We don't think of him as X's and O's brain genius or anything like that. Not that he's bad at it, but like motivating and getting guys to want to play for him and want to buy into what he is putting on the floor, that is what Jerome Tang is best at. It was not working at the start of the year. Whatever he tweaked, it clearly clicked with Doug McDaniel, and you're seeing it pay dividends right now. Right now, I mean, here's an interesting question for you. If you were to end the season today, right now, with the committee in place, K-State's probably not a tournament team, but if they're going to play like this, even with a few more losses sprinkled in between now and the first or second weekend of March, this is a tournament team. They're playing like it. Lots of teams can play like tournament teams for a stretch, but if you get this kind of basketball the rest of the way, this K-State team is going to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, if they can get to 18 wins, they go 5-2 in their last 7. If they get to 18-13, I think the committee will then look and weigh the Big 12 schedule more heavily than they would weigh the non-conference schedule. I think that that would be the hope, right? Like if you're constructing a case for Kansas State to be in the NCAA tournament, which, oh my God, I did not think we would get here. I just want to pump the brakes again and say, we were giving this team credit for, not worrying about this is a lost season and just going out and taking each game that comes and trying to win and play good basketball and come together. Well, now it's not a pipe dream anymore. It's not a 0.0% chance. They've got a real shot if they keep winning basketball games. No margin for error, but the chance is there. And the case you make for K-State, if they get to 12 conference wins, is to say that they were better in conference play in the second best conference in America, and you should throw out December a little bit. You should throw out November a little bit because this was a brand new team and it took them that long to come together. Frankly, I think that's a compelling case to make. I don't know that it gets them over the line. A lot depends on, when you don't win the conference or win 25 games, a lot is out of your hands. A lot is dependent on the whims of the committee or how many bid thieves are there out there. But certainly they are back in the conversation. They are a team that has played their way into that level of discussion. And even if it's the next 4 out for Joe Lunardi, that's still a long, long way from where this team was a month and a half ago.
Still a lot of basketball to be played, obviously. There are a lot of winnable games. K-State really struggled early on in the conference season. And let's be fair here, looked bad. Like, you can play against KU, and they got one back against KU, but KU and Texas Tech and Houston and Baylor. Baylor wasn't quite as bad, but like, you can play that rough stretch and like, hey, look, they lost. They're clearly not in the same class as those teams, but they battled. You can see the vision. I mean, K-State got their asses handed to them by Houston. Like that was an embarrassment of a game, even against a really good team. They got through the meat of the schedule, man. After the rest of the way, there are, if my math is correct here, 7 Big 12 games left. At BYU is tough. At the Marriott Center, that's tough. KU and K-State are doing like a D2 schedule here.
Yeah, they're
going to play BYU and Utah on the road back-to-back in reverse order.
Are they busting together? Are they travel partners?
It's very funny. They're going to stay at the Best Western together. BYU on the road, that's going to be tough, but it's winnable.
And for the record, today on Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology, BYU is one of the last 4 in.
Okay, so that very comparable, according to him. Utah's not good. Arizona State comes to Bramlage. Arizona State stinks. They have the worst coach in the conference. UCF on the road. Yeah, I'm not really all that worried about Orlando. It's a long trip, sure. They're not all that great. Colorado is an affront to basketball. At Cincinnati, you already know you can beat Cincinnati. Iowa State, end of the year, that's going to be tough. Iowa State's a really good team. Although they're not who they were 2 weeks ago either, or 3 weeks ago either.
It's also senior day, and you know how the emotions of that day can carry you through sometimes.
It's the Big 12, and that's always difficult. But by the same token, all of these teams are in their first or second year in the Big 12. Yeah. You're not going through the Big 12 gauntlet the rest of the way until that Iowa State game if you're K-State. You're probably going to drop 1 or 2 just because it's high-level college basketball. There's a lot of winning basketball left on the table here for K-State. Their schedule lines up insanely favorably.
You need 5. You need 5 But again, I think that the best thing that this coaching staff and this team have done over this stretch is kept each game as its own thing and not worried about the big picture. There's no panic with this group right now. They're playing composed basketball. We saw it last night. Lead got away from them. 5 minutes left. They're down. Arizona's on a run. Doug McDaniel takes over. And then Moby makes that great play.
You think they need 5? I'll call it right now. I think they win 5 in a row. BYU, yeah, the metrics love BYU. Marriott Center, hard place to play, fine. Iowa State, I think, is still better than K-State, even with the directions those two teams are heading right now. Utah, Arizona State, UCF, Colorado, Cincinnati, all in a row. I think K-State should be favored and should win every single one of those games. There's your 5 right there.
I think they are ahead of most, if not all, of their opponents in the Ken Palm. They haven't made the big leap in the Ken Palm that you might have expected. They're still 57th in the Ken Palm.
That is a sizable lead. They were in the high 90s.
They were in the 90s. They were 58th going into yesterday. I thought they might go up a few spots with a win over number 13 in the country and number 14 in the Ken Palm at home, but they did not. BYU's 34th, and Cincinnati is 54th. But other than that, yeah, everybody that K-State plays from this point forward, they will be favored in the Ken Palm.
Yeah, K-State should win those 5 games. I'm willing to call my shot now. Last time I called my shot, I thought the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl handily. That did not go so well. But I feel very confident with the way K-State is playing in that stretch after the BYU game. And K-State can beat BYU. BYU's not like playing, 2012 Kentucky here. I mean, they're good, but they're not like world beaters. They're a metrics darling because they shoot a bunch of threes.
K-State almost got them last year.
Yes,
a better BYU team and a worse K-State team, and they almost got them last year.
Yeah.
We'll take our first break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, KU also in action last night. They pulled off a W. Coming up later on, we celebrate the opening of Royals spring training with Pitchers and Catchers Day today, and we chat with Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com. We're just getting started on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I don't mean to pour cold water on the K-State men's basketball enthusiasm, but if you go and you read Joe Lunardi's bracketology, this is actually from yesterday. He talks about how teams that are holding their breath on the bubble, a lot of them who end up missing out do so because their non-conference schedule strength is not very good. K-State 195th in non-conference strength of schedule, according to Ken Palm.
Got to keep winning.
That's yeah. You take the decision out of the committee's hands if you go win the conference tournament at the end of the year. And I mean, since they're never going to lose again, I mean, they'll just win that and get the auto bid, right? We're gonna have to ask. We're gonna have to ask Fitz. Like, yeah, when's the next time they're going to lose a game? 2026, 2030. Will we be alive?
Again?
Will we be alive to see the next K-State loss? They are the team that has forgotten how to lose. Text from the 785, and you too can text the program, 785-272-9429. Text from 785 says if they could have made some threes, it would have been worse last night. Yeah, man, that was one of the most bizarre games. The first time since 2022, both teams have shot below 10% from three.
That's horrible. It really, really horrible. It was more for me than anyone else here. That was the worst game or the worst day of three-point shooting in the history of basketball, as far as I'm concerned. At one point last night in their loss to the Detroit Pistons, the Chicago Bulls missed 20 consecutive three-pointers. That's professional.
I saw they scored 29 points in the half.
Yeah. Yep.
Insane. 29 points in an NBA game.
Wow, that's really bad, but I guess it makes sense after they sold off all their pieces at the trade deadline and decided to rebuild. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm getting news. No, they didn't. We don't have to talk about the Bulls.
No, let's not do that.
I'll just get angry.
Let's talk about KU. Let's talk about the Kansas Jayhawks, who last night took care of their business against Colorado, 71-59, the final score. Didn't cover. And really never put Colorado away until a late 7-0 run. But also, even when Colorado was within 5 with like 13 minutes to go, it never felt like Kansas was seriously threatened. This entire game has sim-to-end energy written all over it. Two teams that understand there's kind of there's an ending that we know is sort of inevitable, and we'll just get there over the course of 40 minutes and shake hands, and that'll be that. KU obviously got a big night from Hunter Dickinson, 19 points, 9 rebounds. Zeke Mayo, just 13 points, had a tough night shooting. KU as a whole did have a tough night from the field, 6 of 21 from behind the arc. But again, the wings are zeros right now for KU. Rylan Griffin plays 17 points, does not make a shot from the field, finishes with just 3 points and 1 rebound. AJ Storr only played 7 minutes. And scored 4 points in those 7 minutes. But the fact that he only played 7 minutes should tell you all you need to know about what Bill Self thought of A.J. Storr's effort last night. And I don't know if that's fixable, frankly, but that's why this KU team feels like it's far short of expectations and hopes this year. And I just don't know what can be done to fix that.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to be better. Zeke is what he is. Rylan Griffin has not been what I certainly hoped. There have been moments. There have been flashes where, yep, that's the guy who started for a Final Four team last year in Alabama. That's the guy who got a big old NIL payday and was one of the biggest gets out of the transfer portal. That guy right there. And he just has not been that. And I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if that's I don't understand what Bill Self wants from me thing. I'm just not sure. But if you're not going to get those options, well, what does that mean? A lot more shots for KJ Adams. And I'm not taking a shot at KJ. He was really good last night. I thought KJ was one of KU's best players last night. I mean, he's more shots for DeJuan Harris, who has not played especially well, unfortunately, over the last few games at this point. It means that you might have to see more of lineups that you really, really, really don't want to see going forward, like the 3 big nonsense or something like that. At some point, and I know there have been a number of KU fans, and maybe this is just the loudest people online, I don't know, but there have been a lot of has Bill Self lost some of his touch? Like, well, why is this team like this? Why can't they close? Why do they have problems with energy of all things? At some point, guys, you got to make shots. Like, at some point, you just have to play better. Rylan Griffin is expected to be better than he has been this year. AJ Storr has been expected to be a playable basketball player, which he frankly just has not been. Play better. That's all this comes down to. I did think KJ was good last night. Hunter Dickinson scored a bunch, obviously, which was good. I thought KJ played some really good defense, which was the most important reason he was out there for 33 minutes. Fleury's hit a wall. Freshmen hit walls. It happens unless you are, Cooper Flagg hasn't really this year, but he's a different kind of cat. Like that's an all-time kind of prospect, or at least in recent memory, one of the best prospects there have been in college basketball. Fleury is considered to be a longer-term piece, even if it's just 2 years, and he has hit a freshman wall right now. And Colorado, not good, not especially talented, they attacked Fleury and it worked. And so you had to see a lot more KJ Adams. Why is KJ out there for 33 minutes? I don't know, because he can defend. Like, he can do more than just jump at this point. And I'm not taking a shot at Fleury. This was expected from a young freshman. But this KU team just is what they are. And if they won every game like this, I wouldn't really care. I do think it's worth noting, Bill Self said on his post-game radio interview that good teams should be able to slam the door, and KU just was not able to do that. The paraphrase here, we'll take the W. It wasn't a work of art by any stretch. We had a chance to crack them. That's what good teams are supposed to do. We didn't do that. Unfortunate. But he's right. Like, you should have been able to win by 20 plus in a game against a really bad Colorado team at home. But that's just kind of what this KU team is. And you're 100% right. If you're not getting 20 points or 15 plus from Mayo, 10 plus from Griffin, you're not going to find a lot of scoring in a lot of places. That's just what KU is going to have to deal with.
Yeah. This is just kind of who they are right now. And I don't know that unless there's a switch to be flipped a la Malik Newman in 2018 for Rylan Griffin and or AJ Storr, if the ceiling for KU is a whole lot higher than what we've seen the last few games. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come out, a little round of one gotta go on this Wednesday edition of the program. One got to go on a Wednesday staple here on 580 Sports Talk. Brandon, why don't you lead us off?
All right, inspired by some chatter in the YouTube comment section today, I believe our guy Mark H. brought this up first. One got to go. Farm animals. Horse, sheep, cow, goat. One got to go.
Okay. In like what context here?
In whatever context you want. You're on a farm. You've got animals, but you only have pens or barns for 3 of them.
Horse, sheep, cow, and goat?
Yes.
Well, I've never eaten a horse, so.
You know, there are other uses for animals on a farm than just eating them.
Oh, I know. And I also know what sounds they make. I know old MacDonald had them, and
yep.
I don't know if you're at the play songs for your child yet phase, but
we've got a little mat that has a big flashing piano that plays a bunch of songs.
Mm-hmm.
I know all about the purple monkeys and bubblegum trees.
So
all about that.
I was doing daddy daycare yesterday. Talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show. Asher's got this little book, and it's very cool. It's like a push, like you touch it and it will say the word that you're touching in the book. It's a picture book, and it's all electronic. There's a little button that's just a star, and you press that and it'll play a song. And Asher loves to press the star button and like press it over and over again, so the song keeps getting interrupted. But one of the songs is some of my favorite words are, and then it's like 2 words from the book, like pony, fish. I love words. It's like, no, those are nobody's favorite words. Nobody say, hey, you know what my favorite word is? Dish.
Wrong.
No, absolutely not. That's no one's favorite word. This book is lying to you. Anyhow.
Anyway, which farm animal are you getting rid of?
Gosh. I guess that's tough. I like them all. I like all farm animals. I gotta say the goat. I don't know. Goats are funny. Goats are funny. But maybe the least essential of the 4.
See, but then you don't need to mow your grass.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
My dad spent a few summers when he was a kid on a farm outside of Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And he tells me for my whole life, he loves to tell me about their goat, Jocko the goat. And he was like, yeah, it was hilarious. Like you look over there and then all of a sudden you turn your head, boom, the goat's over there. And it would eat the grass and it would just run around and goof off all day. He had loved the goat. Told me that instead of buying a new lawnmower this summer, I should just get a goat. My wife does not approve. So yeah, goats sound like a fun time. I'm getting rid of the sheep. Well, this isn't 1340 AD. Like I don't need to shear the sheep to get my own wool. I have no use for the sheep.
Okay.
Horse, I'm going to ride it. The cow, it's going to be my best friend. The goat, it's going to make me laugh.
Goats are hilarious. I remember the first time I went to a goat pen at a 4-H show at the Washakie County Fair in Worland, Wyoming. This city slicker had never seen such a thing. They were wearing like wrestling singlets. I was laughing so hard. There, a stranger, somebody I did not know, looked me dead in the eye, say, "You're not from around here, are you?" One of those moments in my life.
Now, Vance does say on YouTube you can turn the sheep into lamb chops. I do love a good old rack of lamb. Big fan.
Gilland family says get rid of the goat. Paul K says goat. See ya. Jeffrey's with you. He says the sheep has to go.
I'm not going to shear that thing. Get out of here.
I guess that's a little antiquated, but at the same time, I understand, like, lamb chops being kind of tasty. Real quick, one got to go for me. Preseasons in sports. In baseball, football, college basketball.
One's got to go.
Because college basketball has a preseason now, essentially, with the scrimmages.
Yeah, that's true. And you get like KU versus Washburn or whatever. So
sure, exhibitions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of baseballs because I think you can accomplish pretty much the same thing if you just like play against your own team. Like I don't know. I don't ever watch it. It's also less accessible than the others at this point. Football's getting close with fewer and fewer teams playing any starters for any amount of time, but I'd probably say baseball. I like the college basketball scrimmages and exhibitions.
I'd say football's gone. I'm taking hits for games that don't count. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We'll take a last break of this hour, come back and wrap up hour number 1 of 580 Sports Talk. 3:56 on 580 Sports Talk. About halfway done with today's show. We are off at 5 o'clock today for K-State women's basketball. The 14th ranked Wildcats taking on Cincinnati tonight at Fifth Third Arena in Cincinnati. 5:30 tip-off, so 5 o'clock pregame on the K-State Sports Network. We'll be handing it off at 5 o'clock.
Can we get to this from Jeffrey on YouTube? Idea for the NFL. Get 6 timeouts to start. Use them all early or late, whenever you want. I want to see this in the UFL. I want to see Birmingham Stallions versus St. Louis Battlehawks with this rule. That's like arcade football already. Bring back the double forward pass, go back to the new kickoff, and change the timeout rules. And you know what? Go back to the staggered scoring extra points as well. From the 2, it's worth 1 point. From the 5, it's worth 2 points. From the 10, it's worth 3 points. No extra point kicking. I want it to be arcade football.
I actually don't hate that rule. The 6, you get all your timeouts at the beginning and you can parcel them however you want. That would be chaos.
Imagine the end of game.
Yeah, who'd be the first coach to be like 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter and they're just completely out of their timeouts because they called like 5 of them to try and extend a late first half drive.
Aaron Rodgers would love this. Burning timeouts left and right in the third quarter.
Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, Tim Fitzgerald will join us. Plus, it's pitchers and catchers day, so we'll talk some baseball coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. It is our final hour today. We'll make way for the K-State Sports Network. 14th ranked K-State women's basketball team at Cincinnati tonight, 5:30 tip-off. So we are done at the end of this hour here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on video. Check out our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. You can watch us on Facebook as well, WIBW News.
I'm not going to make way. I want something in return. I'm just going to step aside.
An hour to spend at home with your family? That's what I look at it as. That's what I get in return. I get an extra hour with my super fussy kiddo who's about to have another tooth breakthrough.
Fine. I'll accept that this time.
That's what my wife gets in return. Extra set of hands with a fussy kiddo who's about to have another tooth breakthrough. We're on 8. This is going to be number 8.
Dang.
How does he have that many teeth?
That's 25% of the way.
Unbelievable. He cannot be growing this fast. Fun thing that has
I hate to break it to you, but he actually can.
Fun thing that has happened for Ash, a little 580 dad talk here. He has discovered that when you're in the bath and you hit the water, it goes everywhere. And mom and dad think that's funny. Also kind of get soaking wet as well.
Yep.
But the last 2 bath times have been Asher discovering, wait a minute, I can just hit the water and this is really fun and everybody laughs and it's a good time. So yes, now though it's like we sat front row at Shamu when we do bath time. So
that's pretty funny.
Got to start wearing some ponchos for the near future for bath time. Anyhow, so we are off an hour earlier today, hour earlier than usual. That is Brendan Dworzinski. I am Dan Lucero. However you are listening to the program today, thanks for hanging out with us on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Remember, you can text the program 785-272-9429. You can also jump into the comments and the chat on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. Check it out if you haven't. Subscribe if you haven't before. And you can also leave us some comments, some thoughts, and interact with us and also interact with your listeners, which is a lot of fun as well. Again, that's the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. Coming up this hour, we got 2 more stories on what is wrong with you today, sponsored by our pal, State Farm agent Ryan Mo Winkle. Also, bottom of the hour, Tim Fitzgerald is going to join us. GoPowerCat.com for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. We'll get Fitz's thoughts on the now 6-game winning streak for the Kansas State Wildcats. And talk all other things K-State with Fitz as well. And then we'll wrap it up. We'll be done at the end of this hour. We'll do a final word. We'll get on out of here for K-State women's basketball. You know what today was supposed to be, Brendan?
What it was supposed to be? Super Bowl parade?
Parade day. Yeah. This is supposed to be parade day. This is the last day. I'm not going to tell. I take that back. I'm not going to tell people how to fan. But this would be like the last day. It's like, damn, man, Chiefs really didn't win that Super Bowl. They really got 40-pieced in that damn Super Bowl. And we were supposed to be having a parade today. Travis Kelce was supposed to be intergalactically drunk, throwing snowballs at people at Union Station and singing along to, I don't know, maybe he would have done like Hot to Go about Chris Jones.
95. He's hot to go.
Everybody, it was last year. He tried to sing Friends in Low Places. He was looking at the lyrics on his phone. He could not even get through it.
No, just hammered.
Could not get through it.
Instead, we're getting extremely existential Travis Kelce instead.
Yeah.
On New Heights today. He was openly talking about his, questioning his future and whether or not he's going to come back. I will just tell you right now, things can certainly change. Money impacts that. Wanting to have one more ride with the boys, that can obviously impact it. We know how close he is with Andy Reid. The way he spoke on the podcast this week sounded like a guy who was ready to hang it up. It sounded like a guy who was kind of over, I'm going to have to work out all summer, and then training camp, and then a full 18-week season, and then probably a playoff run. It sounded like a guy who was done with that part of it.
Definitely going to be harder to get up for the opportunity next year, because like every team has a championship opportunity, right? Like every team goes into camp, unless you're the Jets, believing you can win a Super Bowl. And even the Jets the last couple of years could have hung some hope on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but it takes like a week for them to
right. But that's the whole thing, right? Like that's the thing that animates any player in the league, is that opportunity to go and win a championship. Well, the Chiefs were extra animated with the opportunity at a three-peat. They came closer than any team has in the Super Bowl era to winning 3 consecutive Super Bowls. When there's not that to chase, I understand if Travis Kelce's looking into the horizon and not seeing a carrot like there was in the previous offseason, not seeing that opportunity to three-peat, and a chance to get back on top, but you've been on top. That's just a chance to do something you've already done. And that's different than feeling like I've got a chance to be part of something that nobody's ever done. It's a different motivation. And he does have to decide a little bit if it's worth it. I thought his word choice was very telling too, when he said, I think I can play. Like, I think I can still do it. Talking about playing at a high level. He used the word think, not know. He said think. And I thought that was interesting. I thought that was kind of telling too, in a way, that he understands, maybe unconsciously, but certainly understands that the version of Travis Kelce that would take the field in 2025 would not be the version that we have seen for most of his career.
It will be very strange. I mean, it's clearly going to be no more than 1 year left at this point, right? Like he's going to top out at getting to 2025 and that's it. It will be very strange to watch the Chiefs game without him out there. He's such a staple at this point.
It changes so much about the Chiefs, and not just from an on-the-field perspective either. There's no longer a reason to show the luxury suites at Arrowhead Stadium. Is they're going to show Brittany Mahomes? No.
No, I doubt it.
So it does. It changes a lot about the Chiefs, like as we have come to know them, even just the last couple of years. So I think for his brother, for Jason, there was that, man, we just lost this Super Bowl. I'll give it one more year. Let's see if we can get back. We got the team. Let's see if we can make it back. And then he didn't make it back, and he hung it up. So I think that's going to depend. That's going to be Travis's, I think, challenge himself for this coming year is how much do I want to devote myself to the new challenge? Because this is not a new challenge for me.
Right.
Maybe it's time for some new off the field challenges and opportunities, because it is. It's just tougher to find yourself motivated for that chase if it's not a historic chase.
And it's hard to go through camp, man. That's a grind. And especially if you're playing for Andy Reid, it is a grind. You might get a couple veteran days, but Andy Reid ain't going to take it easy on him just because he's Travis Kelce.
No.
And Kelce, I think, would be the first one to tell you he wouldn't want that anyway. But that is a lot of just pain and soreness and early mornings and hot days and the grind of it all year or all summer until you then get to the season itself and then the playoffs. And man, the Chiefs have played so much football.
Yeah.
So much football. And, 3 straight Super Bowls. The average team doesn't make the playoffs every year. Like, that's 10. Did they get the number 1 seed in 22?
Yes.
I believe they did. So that's then 10 extra games over the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
That's 2/3 of a season on top of all these other games. And that's a lot of hits. That's a lot of running. That's a lot of getting worn down. I can understand if a guy who's 35 and has played nearly 10,000 snaps in his career thinks, hey, I don't know that I have the endurance to do this again.
My tank might just be empty. The Gilliland family makes a good point in the YouTube live chat that the motivation for the Chiefs next season, driven by proving they are still a dynasty instead of proving that it's over. And I think that's absolutely true for the guys who are in the middle of their careers. Like, I think for Mahomes, absolutely, that's his motivation for next year. I think for, some of the guys who are in their primes, like a Creed Humphrey. I think that can animate him. A Chris Jones even a little bit, even though he's on what you would call the back nine of the career. But like it's a lot closer to over than not for Travis Kelce anyway. And so I don't know if that's as animating for him, knowing that as a player and as a team, he's been to the mountaintop. And Chris Jones, I think, directly spoke to it after the game. Like, I'm never going to have a chance to three-peat again in my career. Like, that was so it had never been it never happened. And the opportunity is so rare that to have it slip away and to know that that level of the chase is not going to be around, you're never going to get that chance again. That is, again, I think that's part of Travis's thought process.
Real quick, before we get to baseball, I don't think it will ever happen. I do not think there will ever be a 3-time back-to-back-to-back champion. I don't think it can be done.
It's super hard. It's hard to imagine because you have to be wired like the Chiefs are wired, and so many things have to go right. You have to have the quarterback who's the force multiplier, and the Hall of Fame coach, and the Hall of Fame talent around it, and even
be insanely healthy.
And you saw that the Chiefs spent this whole last season on the razor's edge, right?
Yeah,
and still made it to making it to the Super Bowl was still a remarkable feat. But yeah, the league, as we've said countless times, the league is designed to bring you back to the middle. And it is so hard to stay at the top.
Think of how much different the game is today versus when free agency started, or, the pre-free agency era and Reggie White and all of that. And then think about how different even that era of football was from the pre-Super Bowl 1960s Packers into the Super Bowl era, who won 3 in a row. I mean, it's the same sport, but it ain't the same sport at this point. There's a reason it's only been done twice. Once when the league was essentially semi-pro in the 20s, and they didn't actually have playoffs. You just scheduled whoever you wanted, and whoever had the most wins in a 3-month stretch ended up being your champion when the Packers did in the 20s. And then again in the 60s, there were fewer teams. There was no free agency. The money was so much different. Dudes were working a second job in the offseason. Like, it is one thing that I do not believe we will ever see. I do not think we will see a 3-peat champion.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine because it took this long to see even the possibility. And we've only ever seen one team go to even 4 straight Super Bowls. And Chiefs.
And they famously were not all that close to a 3-peat.
No, they were not. So, yeah, but that's another topic for another day. Today, we celebrate the return unofficially, but it's sort of the unofficial first day of baseball season. Pitchers and catchers report. Happy Pitchers and Catchers Day to all of those who observe. The Royals have reported, pitchers and catchers have, to surprise Arizona to begin spring training. And obviously there's a lot more excitement going into the 2025 season than there has been for recent seasons, as the Royals are coming off of a playoff berth last year. There are some publications and some TV pundits who are going to pick the Royals to win the American League Central this coming year. After all, they came pretty close last season. And I wish that I could meet that level of optimism regarding the Royals. I am worried they didn't get enough done this offseason. I am worried that the Royals remain a bat short because they were multiple bat short last year, and they added Jonathan India, and that's great. A credible leadoff hitter in front of Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino could go a long way towards helping the Royals offense be a little bit more consistent in 2025. But nobody was worse in baseball when it came to offense from the corner outfielders last year. And there were a lot of free agent corner outfielders, and the Royals did their due diligence on some of them. They made an offer to Anthony Santander, who, funny enough, I think was the high-profile guy who made the least amount of sense for the Royals to pursue. But that's me.
I like that they took the swing, though.
Yeah, they did. They offered him a 3-year deal, reportedly, and Santander took more security, more money from Toronto. I still feel like this team is a bat short, unless they really firmly believe that 2025 will be the year of MJ Melendez. And look, I want to believe so badly that that can be true. that 2025 can indeed be the MJ Melendez breakout year. That, like Mike Moustakas and Eric Hosmer before him, a slow start in the first 2 and 3 years of his career led to something like a breakout in year 4. That was especially the case for Moustakas. I want to believe in MJ Melendez, and I understand why you would want to believe in MJ Melendez. But this is a really big bet, it feels like to me, that the Royals are making on MJ. Unless they're just going to make a big bet on Maikel Garcia instead, and Jonathan India is going to play a bunch of left field. Because right now, Jonathan India doesn't have a natural position. They're going to keep Massey at second base, Michael Massey. Is India going to play third? Well, then that, obviously, less playing time for Maikel Garcia, unless he can play center field, which they're reportedly trying him at. Well, India could play left field, but that's where Melendez has been playing. They say they're going to try Massey a little bit in left field as well. I still think, even in those scenarios, you still got an offensive zero in center field in Kyle Isbell, which is fine because I think he's a good enough defender to make up for it. And look, no team in baseball has 9+ hitters. Like there's just not an offense in baseball that's running that out there. So it's okay if you got a guy who's out there glove first, and if that's Kyle Isbell in center, that's fine. But Maikel Garcia is a cipher offensively. Sounds like he's going to get a lot of at-bats. The corner outfield. Right field. What are we doing out there? Hunter Renfroe again? That wasn't great. What are we doing in left field? MJ Melendez? If that gets better, then I can see the vision. I can a little bit. And maybe this is the Royals deciding we're giving MJ one more crack at it. And if it's not working, we're going all in at the trade deadline. We're taking a big swing to address our offense, but we'll do it in June and July with a trade and not in the free agent market. If that's the plan, I can get behind that. But it just feels like a lot is depending on a breakout from Melendez, and a lot is depending on two things that happened last year that I would not bet on repeating this year. Number one, the pitching staff staying as healthy as it did. And number two, Bobby Witt Jr. being a 10-win player. Those seasons are super rare. Bobby Witt Jr. could win the MVP this coming year. He really could, and be like 3 wins worse. He could be a 7.5-win guy at shortstop, and that's still like awesome.
Yep.
Right? That's still like best player in the game type stuff. But then that's also 3 wins of value you got to find somewhere else in your lineup. And so I do feel like the offseason's a little unfinished for the Royals. They did not accomplish everything they needed to accomplish to make me feel like they ought to be the Central favorites. Now, is that me saying they can't win the Central? No. That's just me saying I can't get enthusiastically behind the idea that they ought to be the clear favorites. And I think that's a missed opportunity.
So I've got a couple questions for you here. No, well, one statement first. If India can play third base, I don't really have a problem with him getting at bats over Maikel Garcia.
No, he's going to start. The question is where, right?
And I kind of think that's your best option. I think having Massey at second, India at third, Maikel Garcia filling in. I mean, shoot, he could play plenty as a fill-in at second, a fill-in at third, or he'll pinch hit a bunch.
Maybe he's the right-handed platoon partner for Kyle Isbell in center field if he takes to center.
He could certainly be that. India just has always been a better offensive producer in his career than Maikel Garcia has. So I have no problem with that one bit. I agree. I think you're a bat short. There's a lot of guys, and you can spin this a couple of different ways. There are a number of guys here who are lottery tickets. MJ is still that, which it's less valuable because you've been holding that same lottery ticket for years now. Like, you might want to check the expiration date on the back of that one. Got Nelson Velasquez, who maybe after spending all that time in the minors and you have another spring, maybe you see something, you fix something in his swing and you can get something more out of him. I mean, if you could get a guy, even if he's only going to hit 220, if he's going to actually hit home runs and hit doubles at the K, there's a lot of value to that. I would not be opposed to him getting on the major league roster. So you've just got a number of guys, those two in particular, who like, hey, maybe you're something, but we don't entirely know that you're something. I sort of wish, and they're out of the running at this point, I do wish the Royals had a chance to go get Bregman. I do. I think Alex Bregman is both a bit overrated, and I think his decline is also overstated, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like, Alex Bregman was 7 years, but I mean, he fell off a cliff. I mean, he still had a 117 OPS plus last year. Like, he was still a well above average batter.
Won a Gold Glove too. He's a 4-win player.
And I saw an analysis the other day. I saw this because the Cubs are in on Bregman, that people say, oh, well, his offense was aided by the Crawford boxes and by left field. That's not actually entirely true. A little bit, but not as much as people are making it out to be. I think that's still an above average player. That's the kind of bat that I wish the Royals were more like had a better chance to go get.
I was pounding the table for them to go trade for Nolan Arenado this offseason, and now it looks like Arenado only wants to play either with the Dodgers or with his old buddies DJ LeMahieu in New York or Trevor Story in Boston. That's only place he wants to go, which is too bad because he'd help the Royals.
Yes, you would. That is absolutely true. But that's sort of what I think about with this Royals team, because I mean, if you've got a guy who's even going to be, a 10% better than the average offensive producer, 110 OPS plus this coming year, you put that at third base, and all of a sudden you can more easily move Massey to the outfield, and you have Massey batting like 6th or 7th, and you can put Bregman batting 5th in there behind Salvi, Vinny, Bobby.
They needed a leadoff hitter and they needed a 5-hole hitter, and they went and got the leadoff hitter and they didn't go get the 5-hole hitter unless they think Melendez is going to be that guy. And I've seen the videos of his new stance too. I want to believe so badly in MJ Melendez.
Is there anyone else still out there you think they could reasonably go after?
Nobody who I think would be worthwhile, honestly, other than Bregman or an Arenado trade. I'm kind of like, JD Martinez would have to DH. Mark Canha's really only good against lefties.
He was he was okay.
Not anybody I'm super enthusiastic about. Real quick, since it is pitchers and catchers day, give me the one pitcher you're most fascinated by for this 2025 roster.
Lucas Erceg. I want to see if he can do it again.
I'm thinking bullpen too. Like, I think Erceg and Estevez is really good in the late innings. I want to see a Hunter Harvey bounce back. Harvey had put together like 2.5 seasons of elite relief work, and then he got to Kansas City and immediately got hurt. If he bounces back, then all of a sudden you've got a 7-8-9 combo, plus what you get out of the lefties, like a step forward for Zerpa. If Bubic stays in the pen, you're really strong from the left side. And then the idea is like, hey, that bullpen that kept things afloat when they forgot how to hit in September and helped them win the wild card series. Yeah, imagine that for 6 months.
I'm a little surprised neither of us said Bubic.
He's a fascinating guy, too, for sure. Him, Kyle Wright, like all the guys who are bidding for that last rotation spot. I would keep Bubic in the bullpen. I thought his stuff played up in the bullpen. But he was showing some early signs of figuring it out as a starter before his elbow blew 2 years ago. So, he's a fascinating guy, too. We will take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. We got lots more baseball to talk about as things warm up, pun intended, in surprise. And we will get to that. We're excited to talk some ball here on 580 Sports Talk. We got Tim Fitzgerald coming up in a bit. First, What is Wrong with You is next. But before we take this break, a quick word for my friends at Great Life here in Topeka. With 8 fitness centers on a snowy day, it's not real fun to go work out outside, but you never have to worry about that if you're a Great Life member, because with 8 fitness centers and all kinds of great amenities at all of them, you are close, if you live in the Topeka area, to a Great Life facility to go and meet your fitness goals. Check them out, greatlifetopeka.com. Become a member today. Back after this on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you? Time on 580 Sports Talk, sponsored by our buddy Mo, Ryan Mo Winkle, State Farm agent. Check out his website, ryanmowinkle.com. See what Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you.
I'm going to start today on
Yes.
On what is wrong with you, because I think it's a great lead-in when you're talking about insurance. You're trying to ensure that if something happens, you're covered, right?
That is how it works.
Well, I sure hope that these folks had their packages insured. A man claims that he has been shamed into moving out of his flat in England, Bournemouth, England, after he was caught stealing more than a dozen packages from his own neighbors.
That's wild. Yeah, I bet he was shamed.
31-year-old Thomas Faithful grabbed the parcels, which had been left in the open of his building in Bonscombe, Bournemouth, England, ranging from a table to a phone to new shoes and even a bottle of washing up liquid. What is washing up? Soap? Is that what that is?
Sure, yeah, body soap.
England, you're wild. Faithful said he would like to apologize to his neighbors in person and that he has indeed found a new home to move into, but he had to go to court. He narrowly avoided jail time, and his neighbors said he's got to get out. Admitted now he has an extraordinary sense of shame.
He had a cocaine problem. That's why he was just ripping packages from the front doors of his neighbors. Just walking up, ooh, that looks like that's for me.
I'm going to finish off these nose clams, then crack open my new phone and my new washing up liquid.
What a jerk.
Yeah, your own neighbors, man.
That's wild. That is wild. My story takes us to Norfolk, Virginia. This is a story that happened back in 2023, but one of the two culprits has just been sentenced to more than 22 years in prison. Two men attempted to rob a home at gunpoint, but their attempt backfired after one victim outwitted them by escaping in their perpetrator's own getaway car. Here's how it happened. 41-year-old James Kennedy and his co-conspirator went to the victim's home. The co-conspirator was dressed as a utility worker and asked the individual about a natural gas leak. The victim let the co-conspirator inside after he recalled smelling gas earlier. Meanwhile, Kennedy went to the back door. The co-conspirator asked the victim to open the back door, to which he found Kennedy with his face covered, pointing a gun. The victim was ordered to lay on the kitchen floor while the co-conspirator looked around. A second victim was also ordered into the kitchen. After the first victim's dog began barking, the dog's owner was somehow able to convince the perpetrators to let him take the dog outside to calm it. Once outside, the individual ran to the front of the house where he found the vehicle his intruders used, which was still on and running. The victim got in the car and drove it around the corner to call the police. Kennedy's identifying information and cell phone were both inside and later used to identify him. Kennedy and his co-conspirator did steal thousands of dollars in cash, a handgun, and other valuables, but ended up running away from the house since they no longer had a car. In the process, one of them left a gun in the living room.
Oh.
The second victim picked up the gun and chased the intruders out of the house.
Oh, my gosh. It's like Home Alone.
Kennedy was arrested last August. He was a previously convicted felon. He pled guilty to a drug possession charge. He's been sentenced to 22 years in prison.
All right, well, this one gets the win today, certainly. Oh, my gosh. Don't bring your phone and your wallet to the crime scene.
Yeah, generally a bad idea. Also, don't leave your car out running, and definitely don't give your victim access to your getaway car.
Hey, how quick do you think this will be? I don't know, a few minutes? All right, I'm going to leave the keys in.
I got to take a dog out back. Okay, but remember, come right back and get back down on the floor, please.
Yeah, you got it.
Morons.
I got you.
Does that beat fart me through the phone?
Nah, man, she put her phone up to her butt, farted on it, and then sent it to her boyfriend's ex. That's insane.
Ex's new girlfriend.
Ex's new girlfriend. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Fart me through the phone moves on. That's our What Is Wrong With You winner. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined in the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline by Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Subscribe to the 24/7 Sports Network. Get Fitz and the crew's outstanding K-State info. Be a VIP today. He joins us every Wednesday at this time for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz, when they end up making a movie about this Kansas State men's basketball team that just never lost another basketball game and won the national championship, who's going to play you in it?
Oh, it's got to be George Clooney. I mean, we're twins. He looks so much alike.
The resemblance is inarguable.
White,
Oh, I know.
male. I see it right away. Absolutely fits.
Then hair that you want to run your fingers through. His is on his head, mine's on my back. It's very similar.
It's going to take me a second to recover from that. Tim Fitzgerald joining us on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz, 6 in a row now for Jerome Tang's Kansas State Wildcats. They beat Arizona last night, another top 25 win at Bramlage, 73-70. What stood out to you the most from that 40 minutes of basketball last night?
That they didn't play well. I mean, they played well in some areas. They defended well. They did a lot of things. But 1 of 19 from 3 would have derailed this team a month ago in epic proportions. They would have just been blown out by a good team like Arizona. But that didn't stop them in this game. They hit 1 3-pointer the entire game. Luckily, or, maybe it was of your making. Arizona wasn't much better. They hit 2. It was not a pretty offensive game, but it was pretty fun to watch if you're into defense. Both these teams got after each other quite a bit. And K-State just kept persisting, Dan, and that's not something they were doing earlier in the year. They were fragile before, and now all of a sudden they're durable, and they work through things. And this has been such a dramatic change, it's really hard to wrap your mind around.
One of the things Jerome Tang kept insisting about his team, even as things got really dark and the 6-game losing streak early in Big 12 play was happening, he kept talking about the team chemistry. He kept saying these guys like each other and they want it to work. They want it to come good, and they're working hard together. Obviously, winning helps team chemistry a lot, but I was struck, particularly watching the Kansas game, that this is a team that is all the way in for each other. And I think that team chemistry is a huge part of why they've gone on the run that they have now.
One of the things when you form a team, whether it's athletic or business or whatever, is, we want to be successful. But how do you define that success? And a lot of people say, can't separate the team success from personal success. I want to score 20 points a game. Those type of things. And I think they were all bought in, but they weren't ready to pay the price that meant I'm not going to be the star. I'm not going to be the go-to guy. I'm going to have to be the defender and rebounder. I'm going to have to. And once it took them a while to get to that point, it's almost like they had to be broken. And they realized, okay, we're going to have to start carving out our own place in this machine. And once they did that, the pieces fell together. They're all fulfilling roles now that are essential to winning basketball games. And really, the only one that seems to be surfacing as a star is Doug McDaniel. Coleman Hawkins even kind of comes and goes. He had a bad night last night, and K-State still won. So I just find it intriguing that this personal journey these players have been on have brought them to this point and realizing how much more powerful the team is than just individual desires.
Who gets the credit for this Doug McDaniel turnaround and emergence into like the perfect point guard for this team and this system? Is it him and Jerome Tang finally getting to a point where they see eye to eye a little bit? Was this Doug McDaniel looking at the man in the mirror and deciding that he needed to get his head on straight? Like, where did this come from? Because McDaniel was the best player on the court last night, and Arizona's got an All-American contender in Caleb Love at guard.
Yeah, who struggled scoring quite a bit. You have to give credit to McDaniel, but I mean, it's his persona that has been reinvented. But really, it kind of comes back to Jerome Tang, the head coach. These two guys were button heads. They were not seeing eye to eye. It wasn't working. I thought they were going to get divorced. I thought the only way this team can move forward probably is jettisoning McDaniel, which they didn't want to do because they saw this. They knew this could happen. And I think the two meeting in the middle, setting aside some ego that they had to be right 100%, allowed them then to sit down and talk and realize we have common interests, or let's get to the point of us both succeeding. And they have. Doug McDaniel has turned in from a shooting guard playing the point to an adequate point guard to a true creator and playmaker for his teammates within a month that's taken place. And it's been absolutely incredible. I had been critical of him even when he was scoring that he didn't create enough. He wasn't a true point guard. I compared it to being a really talented cook. Doesn't make you a chef. Now he's a chef, and he's concocting some incredible things, whether it's a crossover dribble for himself or a between the leg pass to someone else. He's a lot of fun to watch, and this is him. This is what he can do for a team, and I'm glad he's getting the opportunity to show that.
This is the Wildcat Wrap-Up on 580 Sports Talk. We're joined by Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com, the publisher of GoPowerCat. Go be a VIP at 24/7 if you're not already. That's the best way to get all the best insight, information into what's going on in K-State athletics. So are we going to see first team or second team all Big 12 Moby Iruka this year? Obviously being somewhat facetious, but I mean, where did this come from in these last couple of games, Fitz? I mean, we knew he was athletic, but I remember when he committed, we had you on the show, and we were like, yeah, I mean, he might get some bench minutes. He might be a future piece. He's suddenly become an almost irreplaceable piece of this K-State roster.
Hey, you got to have that energy guy, and good heavens, is he the energy guy? He comes in, and, you know, a lot of times, I'm going to be really blunt here. A lot of times the energy guy is the guy who's not very talented. He comes in and just dives on the floor and just makes all these hustle plays. Moby's really athletically skilled. And so when he comes in with energy, he jumps about a foot higher than most people. He is so quick, a guard has problems guarding him, and he can cover guards and also slide down and cover the big guys. It was his raw athleticism and build that attracted these coaches to Moby, and they're being rewarded for it. I think he's ahead of where I thought he'd be. But the way he plays with so much heart, passion, and now is refining that into a more basketball relatable skill set, it's incredible to watch. And his steal, he had 3 steals in 14 minutes. Who does that? I mean, that's a crazy stat against a really good team. But his final steal that led to the dunk just broke the back of Arizona pretty much. And, you know, short of a miracle shot from half court again, they were going to lose that game, and that's exactly how it played out.
That play was awesome, although we were talking about it a little bit earlier in the show, Fitz. Were you at least, like, a little bit worried about him dribbling in the open court? Like, oh, maybe this is not the best way for this to unfold?
Yeah, I had visions of that ball ending up being kicked and hitting a classy cat on the baseline. I'm like, oh, slow up. But where are you going, big guy? But like me, he's of Irish heritage, and we don't listen. And so, I don't think he's Irish heritage. He's just from Ireland. I think I'm from Irish heritage, but not from Ireland. It's very confusing, but we don't listen. We're going to go do this. Hey, drinking this pint of ale seems like a great idea, and it wasn't, but we did it. And that's just how we've been bred through the years.
I've been to both Ireland and Salina. I truly can't tell the difference if it's, you know, all things considered.
Yes. Yeah. I've never been to Ireland, so I'm going to have to trust you on that.
Both places are very green. I know. I love the cliffs of Salina myself.
Cliffs of the Kansas River. Yeah, very, very similar to the cliffs of Moore. Hey, Fitz, the upcoming schedule for the Cats: 7 more games in the regular season. At BYU next up. That's going to be tough. Marriott Center's a tough place to play. BYU metrics like them a little more than their actual quality probably, but that's going to be a tough game. After that, though, before the Iowa State game to round out the year, Utah, ASU, UCF, Colorado, Cincinnati. I don't know about you, Fitz, but this feels like a very manageable stretch. And it feels like if you were going to struggle, if you're K-State, you may as well struggle against, the first game against Kansas and Tech and Baylor and Houston, because right now with the way they're playing, it's hard to see more than a loss or two over these final 7 games with the way this schedule unfolds.
So we've kind of done the math, and we think to be in the conversation, to be on the bubble, they've got to go 5-2, which put them at, 18-13. And really the problem here isn't the number of wins, it's the number of losses. And barring winning the conference tournament in Kansas City and earning the automatic bid, you'll be with 14 losses. That's a lot of losses to get in. But I think a 19-14 K-State team with this resume they put together here over the last stretch of the season will get them in. And I don't think if they accomplish that, I don't think they'll be in Dayton either. I think they have more quality wins than anyone else in the Big 12. It's absolutely astonishing what they're accomplishing right now. I thought, hey, they're playing better. They're going to win 1 out of 2 against Kansas and Arizona. And once they beat Kansas, you're like, well, that was a rivalry game. I can't see them, persisting and keeping it up 3 days later to beat another really good team, probably a better team in Arizona, but they did it. So I think they're proving that they belong in the field as long as they can make up for the crap that they played early in the year and offset that with really good basketball, and they continue to do that, they'll be in. It's incredible.
That's the amazing thing, too, Fitz, is that this team has seemed to be able to just take it one game at a time. And Jerome Tang's not on the podium talking about, well, we got to do this. We got to go X and Y. We got to win X amount of games to get to the tournament. It's all about the next game. It's all about playing well in the moment. And I think that is what has made this even a remote possibility, is the fact that they've taken everything one game at a time.
Yeah, and that's going to be very true this weekend. As you mentioned, going to BYU, that's a challenge. That's going to be they're great fans. There's a lot of them. There's going to be about 18K at the game. It's something else. And then you turn around 2 days later, you never leave Utah. I thought it was interesting. They're actually changing hotels between Provo and Salt Lake City, which is a little bit like changing hotels between Topeka and Manhattan. But if they can go get BYU and Utah back to back, now you're talking 3-2 over 5 games, and that becomes very tangible for a team who has 2 more road trips, being UCF and Cincinnati, both winnable but road games. They're in a really intriguing position.
Tim Fitzgerald and his staff at GoPowerCat.com cover the Cats like nobody else. You should be a VIP subscriber to 24/7 Sports and get access to all of their insider info. You can, of course, catch Tim Fitzgerald with us every Wednesday on the Floating Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-Up here on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz, thanks for taking the time. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you, boys. We've got a basketball podcast up right now.
Go check it out. Go get some more K-State hoops info. Thanks again, Fitz.
You bet.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. We will take one final break, come back, and wrap up this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk after this. That's right. We're wrapping up 580 Sports Talk a little early, making way for K-State women's basketball. So it is time for the final word. Brendan Wrzinski, hit us.
I know K-State was awesome last night. It looked ugly, but they got it done. Beat Arizona. That's awesome. For KU, should have beaten Colorado by more. That's an awful Colorado team. By the same token, I'm at a stage where I'm not really going to get upset about any kind of win as long as you just win the damn game. And KU found a way to do it. Like you said, Dan, kind of a simulate to end sort of game. Got there. Nobody got hurt. KJ Adams had a strong game. Hunter put up a bunch of points. They're not all going to be pretty, but with the way this year has gone, I'm not going to complain about any way that KU can get wins at this point.
Final word for me. K-State may make the NCAA tournament, and they may not. It's still a bit of a long shot. They don't have much of a margin for error. But the idea of being fans, just in general, is to enjoy watching your team play. And if you're a K-State fan, how can you not be having a blast watching Doug McDaniel and company play the way they have played now with 6 consecutive wins? It's a fun team to watch, and it's, the most any team that you follow owes you is a good time. And right now, K-State's a really good time. Brendan, safe travels to Fort Smith, Arkansas tomorrow. It'll be me and Spencer with you from 3 until 6 on tomorrow's show. K-State Hoops, women's basketball against Cincinnati coming up next. For Brendan, I'm Spencer. Good night.